Good afternoon. Welcome to another episode of The Gavel, featuring attorney Anna Toledo. Ms. Toledo is the senior attorney and general counsel to Targeted Justice. She has a background in constitutional and environmental law and is an experienced litigator, including 2 cases at the U.S. Supreme Court. And here's Ms. Toledo.
Well, hello everyone. Welcome to this episode 49 of The Gavel, a podcast dedicated to bringing you from Washington, D.C., the latest news relevant to the community of victims of government weaponization, as well as important updates about my mission for freedom here in D.C. I am your host, Anna Toledo, a Puerto Rican attorney with 30 years litigating experience and specialty in First Amendment and environmental law, civil rights. Like many of you, I am also a victim of government weaponization that is fighting tooth and nail for the freedom from the lawfare and the weaponization that many of us are victims of. I am not seeing your comments. This is the first time that I am using the platform called Restream. So before I go any further, I want to make sure that you can see me. I'm not seeing the comments. So just give me a second here to see if I can. Oh, great. Thank you, James. Thank you. Okay. We have an amazing I have such an amazing show for you for today. And I just have to say that one of the wonderful things of doing this show for you is that it keeps me on my toes, learning. Hi, Jim. Learning everything I need to learn to bring it to you. Okay. This week is particularly important. So I need you to brace yourselves and stay there because it's going to be really amazing. This week, the exposure continues to happen at unprecedented levels. But before I begin, I want to share with you a verse, a Bible verse. You know how I always do that. A Bible verse to bring in this little space, right? And it goes like this. It's from Philippians chapter 4, 10 to 13. I rejoice greatly in the Lord that at last you renewed your concern for me. Indeed, you were concerned, but you had no opportunity to show it. I am not saying this because I am in need, for I have learned to be content, whatever the circumstances. I know what it is to be in need, and I know what it is to have plenty. I have learned the secret of being content in any and every situation, whether fed or hungry, whether living in plenty or in want. I can do all this through him who gives me strength. And this is just so on point. This is exactly how we should aspire to live through the time of our lives that we're living, fighting back the criminals, but being absolutely certain that God is not abandoning us in any step of the way. We have faced corruption. We have faced lawfare. We have faced sabotage. Yet we continue to fight back. And it is because of our efforts that things are starting to come to the light. All that darkness is coming to the light thanks to your efforts. You are fighting back. This is no time to stop. But now you can see that when an empowered community gets together on this common goal of fighting the enemy, making a united front against our enemy, that is when things start to happen. And that's exactly what I'm seeing happening now. So let's rejoice over being failed experiments and for being those warriors that in need, in hunger, in having terrible times, we still continue with our head up fighting, not just for ourselves and our family, but for the future of humanity. Because, as I'm going to explain a little later, this program is being rolled out to all of humanity. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I'm going to ask you to be a little patient with me. Um, um, a little patient with me because this is a new, like I said, I'm using Restream. I'm not using StreamYard because the StreamYard that I was using became hacked, as you all know. And I'm just, it's going to take me a little time to get used to this program because I have been using the other one for 2 years. So please bear with me, be patient as if it was you that was doing this. Anyways, before we go any further, please, to the criminals watching, stay away. It's time for you. It's time for atonement. Your days are numbered, and it's better, it's time for mitigating harm. Stop doing your stupid shenanigans. They're not going anywhere. Anyways, before we go any further, as you know, please like, share, subscribe. Hi, Raquel. Because I am being throttled so badly because the criminals don't want people. There's a lot of victims of government weaponization that the criminals don't want them to find out that they are victims. So I'm counting on you to share this so that people find out about what's happening to them, that it's not normal. Anyways, for those of you that did not get to watch this week's Targeted Justice newsletter, read it, watch it. Here is the fabulous job that our volunteer Sean always does for us.
In 2021, the FBI conducted 3.4 million warrantless searches of U.S. citizen data, an increase from 1.3 million in the previous 12 months. Section 702 allows the government to target virtually anyone abroad, so long as it might yield some foreign intelligence information. As the Privacy and Civil Liberties Oversight Board stated, before Trump fired the majority of the board, targets need not act at the behest of a foreign power. They also don't have to violate U.S. law or engage in any activities hostile to the United States. Simply having information that might be relevant to diplomacy, international affairs, or international trade is enough for a foreigner to be subject to surveillance, along with every American they talk to.
If the Reltron is operated in saturation mode, it causes emission of more X-rays and higher energy X-rays. Saturation mode is when too much electricity is pulsed through the Reltron. Brief pulses can be aimed at victims on the ground, causing X-ray burns and the sunburned faces.
Targeted Justice Board member Richard Lighthouse and attorney Ana Toledo attended the George Mason University to expose the Havana Syndrome and Reltron. There were 700 people who watched it live on YouTube, and about 300 people attended this packed event, including a few CIA agents. Richard and Ana spoke at the event, even though the camera wasn't focused on them.
Privacy Act requests. Go to targetedjustice.com/Privacy Act. You're going to see it there. Some people are saying, I'm not going to send it because they're going to say no. No. Chuck Grassley exposed the prohibited access and the restricted access. And we put in that Privacy Act request language that says, you're not going to just look in the central record system. You are going to look in the entire agency files like the Privacy Act 5 U.S. Code 552A says. You cannot make up where you decide to look. That's illegal under Loper Bright Enterprises versus Raimondo. And we will take it to court and we will win. Those criminals are scared for their lives.
Wanna shoot the children.
You can tell him how you know about children that are victims of directed energy weapons fired by the CIA, enabled by the Space Force. And I gave some money to a homeless guy with the flyers, and he walked away reading it, and then he ran back to me and said, "This is true. I'm like, of course it's true. That's why I'm telling you." And it just feels so good to see their face, saying, "I'm not crazy. I knew I wasn't crazy."
Oh yeah, there's a solution. Fly like an eagle to the sea. Fly like an eagle. Let that spirit carry me. I wanna fly. Oh yeah.
So this is a great time for us to be in this fight.
Calling all digital warriors. Please share, repost, copy and paste this video on all social media platforms. We are still looking for volunteers. Let us know how you can help and the skill sets that you have by emailing us at tjustice2@proton.me. Put volunteer in the subject line. You can watch targeted justice videos by going to the following link. Buy some cool gifts, shirts, hoodies, cups, keychains, and more by heading to the following links. Please consider donating. Targeted Justice is non-profit, and the donations are tax deductible. Thank you again for watching this video. God bless. God bless. God bless. God bless.
Okay, thank you, Sean, and thank every single one of you that have supported us to this day. Rumble is not showing video or sound. Oh my God. It says here it's connected. Thank you, Judy. It says here it's connected. It says it's streaming on Rumble. So I don't understand why. Well, thanks for that. I will upload it. Okay, well, anyways, don't go anywhere because today it's, like I said, it's an information packed. First of all, to all of you that have written to your representatives and your senators, you have to pat yourself in the back because change is happening and they are listening. FISA 702 fight continues. As you know, it has been moved to the 30th of April, and it is very interesting. The developments that have transpired are very insolent and interesting. Now, this is no time for backing down. As you know, there was a postponement of the approval of the renewal. You need, for those of you that have not written yet to your senator or your representative, this is the moment for you to write to them. I'm going to put it here in the chat. And what you're going to write to them is the following. You need to understand that the reason why they insist on spying on law-abiding Americans is because we are victims of weaponization and our lives are completely obliterated because the information is used to stalk, harass, surveil us, kill our pets, break into our homes. Don't make it too fantastical. Make it real, but make it, that it comes from your heart. These people need to understand why the criminals, the military criminals and the CIA and the FBI want to insist on having that weapon to continue weaponizing the government against you. So if you haven't yet, please, I put there the hi Joseph. I put there the link, and Targeted Justice also has a link. So please, I am counting on each and every one of you. Now, Mike Johnson is compromised. When I say something, I back it up. Here's the thing. As you must remember, in 2024, he was the deciding vote to reauthorize FISA. Mike Johnson has an adopted son Michael Tyrrell James Johnson, adopted when he was around 14 and 16. So he has all these legal problems: marijuana, cocaine possession, drug paraphernalia, theft, concealed weapons. And he was given a probation in 2023 as an adult. He faced charges for unlicensed commercial cannabis activity and possession of brass knuckles. He's like, a nice little angel. That's his adopted son. Well, on November 1st, 2023, he got probation. And guess what? On April 2024, FISA 702, he was the deciding vote. That's why I say that Mike Johnson is compromised, just like Jim Jordan is compromised, who has two former FBI working for him. That's why nothing ever happens with the House Judiciary Committee on Weaponization. So you need, for those of you that he is your representative, you have to make sure you vote against Mike Johnson and you campaign against him. Go and work for the campaign. This is how change happens. You go work on the campaign of his person that is running against him. Okay, he is not only compromised, but also he's a sexist. And I'm not going to say the word that usually women say after that, because it's not elegant of me to say it, but you can imagine it. And let me just show you what he did. He is telling Lauren Boebert that she needs to excuse me here, because that she needs to shut up about FISA when she was a victim of FISA. It's like, you shut up, you don't know what you're talking about. She received the same briefing he did, and she's a victim. And there he is telling her, no, you have to shut up. So, he is completely unacceptable. And but fortunately, here's what's going on this week. This is what Lauren Boebert said. The Speaker of the House told me I should leave these negotiations to those that are more experts. That's not written right, but anyway, in the subject matter, said in an interview Wednesday after Johnson was seen huddling with some lawmakers on the floor. What he proposed now, after his spectacular failure to push the clean FISA for 5 years, he wanted. Now he's trying again with a new proposal that's almost identical to the one that failed last week. The main reform in Johnson's first proposal was a provision that merely restated existing law, under which the government may not target Americans under Section 702, but may do so with a warrant or FISA Title I order. That provision was titled a warrant requirement, but we know here's how nefarious the FISA court is. There is no record. You are not given any notice. There is nobody there defending the rights of the victim, of this application by the FBI people that we know, criminals that we know lie. And it's been documented by the FISA court. Anyways, so now also the backdoor searches, that's a big problem, because it's like when somebody from outside of the United States calls you, these people mind control people from outside of the United States to call you from Finland, from wherever, just to say that that's a terrorist, and then have 90 days more of FISA warrant on you. The House proposal now is, the Johnson proposal is for a 3-year extension of 702 with a new structural compliance report process, which in my opinion is absolutely bogus, and I'll explain to you why. It requires the FBI to submit a monthly report to the Civil Liberties Protection Officer, who is going to be appointing it, the president that wants a clean renewal, right? Within the Office of the Director of National Intelligence. All of this secret, because you don't get to see it. You don't get to challenge it. Essentially, the ODNI, Office of Director of National Intelligence, where Tulsi is, that has substantially reduced the personnel. Remember, Tulsi has reduced something like 40% of the employees. So over 40%. So now they're saying, oh no, ODNI is going to supervise the FBI. Right. So the mechanism of alerting the Inspector General included in there doesn't work either. Let me remind you, that aside from the fact that Trump has fired 21 inspector generals, but quite honestly, they won't do anything. Nothing. Because the DOJ inspector general, the last time he did an audit of the terrorist screening center was in 2007. And the findings were horrific. And 2008 were horrific. Those were the audit reports that concluded that 97% of the people in the terrorist screening database were non-investigative subjects. And he was ordered to leave it alone. By whom, I don't know. But the truth is that we filed to see if there were, the comments and everything. And I'm going to talk about that later in the FOIA matter. But the truth is that these inspector generals do not look out for what they're supposed to be looking out, which is that the agency adheres to the law. They don't care. Okay. So now, completely bogus. However, we have the man that always comes to save the day, Thomas Massie. And, I think Thomas Massie is a miracle worker because not only he got everyone to vote in favor, except for one, of the Epstein disclosure. That there's some, no, I'm not going to talk about magic. I think he is protected by God. And I think that with God's support, he can accomplish this. Let me play you what he had a conference this week, and this is what he is. It's just a little bit.
I've been in a skiff last week where I saw 2 secret rulings, interpretations of FISA law, of how the government has created additional loopholes to spy on you that I'm not even allowed to tell you. These are classified as top secret. And finally, the third-party doctrine. This is very troublesome. It's been expanded. It was a ruling. It's based on a ruling of the Supreme Court that allowed, it was a 6-3 ruling. I think it was a bad ruling, but it's been expanded in its interpretation to include things like doctor's appointment records, bank records, phone records, who you texted, all the metadata. Flock cameras, for instance, now. And if you think about collecting information on bank records, that means you can get your gun records. And this was done. This is not something I've imagined. This is something that I learned about thanks to whistleblowers on the judiciary.
So, yes, there you have it. And also the people that own guns are also being surveilled as well. It's very worrisome. And Massie proposed, we have the Rand Paul proposed statute, which is get a warrant. Then we have the one from Wyden and Lee, which is a bipartisan proposal that particularly targets what Kash Patel admitted, that he was buying your data from data brokers. Okay. And then, but the most comprehensive one is the one that Thomas Massie proposed. And let me show you how he announced that you can look up his here it is. This is his bill 8470, Surveillance Accountability Act, and you can look it up in his website. Okay, so this bill was introduced on April 23rd, 2026. And it requires, which is what Article 3 courts require, a probable cause warrant before the federal government can search your private data, even if that data is held by a third party, such as a data broker. The key provisions are the following. Warrant requirement: no government-initiated search without a warrant, including access to third-party data, contractual consents or user agreements. Generally cannot waive this, because in those user agreements, you're like, okay, I don't own my data. And then they can sell it like WhatsApp. No, this says it doesn't matter what the user consents to. You need to get a warrant. The broad definition, it broadens the definition of search, covers metadata collection, geolocation tracking, financial records, internet activity, communications, social media, biometrics, behavioral data, etc. Prohibits warrantless use of facial recognition, which, let me tell you, it's being done everywhere and you don't even know it. I know of a mall in Puerto Rico where they are doing it and they're not telling anybody. And I am absolutely certain it's being done when you walk into the bank, when you walk everywhere. And because they say, they don't even have to tell you. They say we have surveillance camera, but they don't have to tell you that they're doing that. I think they should, but here's what he is including. Bans the warrantless use of facial recognition, biometric tracking, automated license plate readers, or similar systems. The exceptions: consent, exigent circumstances, plain view, limited, identity verification, and lawfully public information. It gives a private right of action for individuals. They can sue federal employees for damages if their Fourth Amendment rights are violated. The goal is to ensure that the government follows constitutional warrant requirements, not just in the context of FISA, but in the context of everything. You know, Cash Patel cannot go and be buying from data brokers your data. Anyways, the one thing that really should worry everybody is that he says that he was in a briefing, and let me just have him tell you what he heard, which is really disturbing.
Intelligence Surveillance Act. The 702 program is the part of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act that is not foreign. Discovered an innovative loophole they're using to spy on Americans in a way I can't even tell you here, because the FBI's interpretation of the law is top secret. Okay, literally, and we've read it. It's very troubling. It's an interpretation, a secret interpretation of the FISA law, and he can't even tell you how they're interpreting. Now, when you have secret laws, that's when you know your country has gone too far.
Yeah.
How do you know you're not breaking secret laws? How do you know what your government's doing? I'll go across the hall and see your other document.
Secret interpretation of the law. I cannot think of anything more illegal than that. And this is happening under Patel, that has been mind controlled to become another Christopher Wray, because Christopher Wray, he was the first one that started. Well, no, he was not the first one. Comey also too. But he perfected this criminality into an art. And now we have Patel, who is a hypocrite, who wrote Government Gangster, saying that he's going to declassify everything and he's going to bring down the deep state. And he is doing even worse. Anyways, I need you, if you have not sent your renewed communication to your representatives and your senators, you need to explain. Do you understand why they are insisting on this? Because they are using it to obliterate lives under the government weaponization program. Okay. Now, there's good news. There's good news now. This is the time for the reframe. Okay. This I learned from Scott Adams. He would advocate for you. When you see something bad, you can always turn it into something good. Well, Mr. Patel and company, let me show you what they're doing. They are asking for additional budgets for their threat screening center. I'm having a little trouble with this situation here, but I will hear this. He has now his threat screening center. He changed it to the terrorist screening center. He changed it to a threat screening center. Okay. This administration's intent is ongoing after it was traditionally associated with the left. So now they are including the people that were not as targeted before as mostly conservative, Catholic, Christian, which is the majority of the original targets, right? I'm not saying that if you belong to the left, you weren't. I'm targeted, and no. I'm saying it's the majority of, and why is this good? Listen to this. This is a genuine nightmare for the deep state, because now these people that are very vocal and that have the support of their Democratic side representatives and congressmen, they are getting their support that they are not going to get their rights violated. So, shortly after Charlie Kirk's death, Kash Patel testified to Congress that he was overseeing, listen to this, a 300% increase in domestic terrorism investigations when there hasn't been an act of terrorism. And in the first months of the administration, the FBI replaced the 9/11 inspired terrorist screening center with the threat screening center so that they can include and throw in there everything. President Trump's budget request to Congress contains the largest counterterrorism spending, which is what you see here. Okay, this is his request for budget. So it is buried inside of it. It's an FBI-led center dedicated to proactively hunting Americans that the government classifies as domestic terrorists. In other words, if your political view, he's doing exactly the same as Biden did. He's going after his enemies. There's nothing constitutional or legal about it. So the new center represents and funding boosts represent the implementation of Trump's National Security Presidential Memorandum 7, which is a sweeping federal order that was signed last September. And so now what this, I'm just going to give you an idea of the people that are being targeted now. And anybody who has these beliefs: anti-Americanism, anti-capitalism, anti-Christianity, support for the overthrow of the government, extremism on migration, which means, for illegal migration, extremism on race, extremism on gender, hostility towards those who hold traditional American views, hostility towards those who hold traditional views on morality, on family, and religion. So, as I'm saying, is the good news. This is the good news. Good news is that the more targeted people there are, now there's going to be more people fighting to shut it down. And I see that, it's no longer, it's like when Michael Weiss exposed Havana syndrome. It's no longer fantastical. It's no longer, it's no longer a made up condition. So when they figure out that they're being attacked with directed energy weapons, that's when the tide is going to turn. Anyways, exposure and setting. This is on another thing. It's all related, you know that, but this is really good. So fasten your seatbelts because this is so good. Exposure and setting of precedent continues. When I say precedent, is that, as you recall, the senators were going to pass a law saying that for each act of illegal surveillance on their phones, they were going to be compensated $500,000. Well, that sets a number, a figure for all of us when our time comes, right, to petition for redress. Well, now, first of all, they cannot legally deny you your FISA warrants because Carter Page, who was involved in the Russiagate, he was given, not only was given his FISA warrants, and I think it was 4 in total, but it was just announced that he's going to get paid $1.2 million from the government alone, because he has other co-defendants, from the government alone for the illegal surveillance perpetrated against him. I'm going to put in here the link for you to, if you're interested in reading his his FISA, how a FISA warrant looks like. And I think I'm going to show you, let me show you here the video, because I did a screen recording of it, and I want to show you. It's so, I mean, I didn't do the whole thing, but I just want you to see it. Get a load of this. So there were four, the FISA warrants have a duration of 90 days, and they have to renew it every 90 days. The FBI criminals have to go lie there and say, yeah, she's been doing this and that and whatever. Under oath. This is under oath. So these criminals perjure themselves to continue spying on you in order to continue doing your gang stalking. So that's formally the Solicitor General told the Supreme Court that they had reached a settlement of $1.2 million with Carter Page. But what concerns us, and this is going to be added to the samples of the Privacy Act request in the Targeted Justice newsletter, if Carter Page was given his FISA warrants, they have to give them to you too. They cannot say, I'm not going to give them to you. Because just like Christine Crowder, if she got her nomination form to the terrorist screening database, you also have a right to it. Just like Tulsi's travel records with the U.S. marshals that were following, federal marshals were following her around. She got her records. You have a right to get your records too if you travel a lot. Anyways, Carter Page has his lawsuit was being dismissed under statute of limitations, under many, how the federal courts, they just dismiss for the federal government. But before it was going to be argued at the Supreme Court, that's when they reached a settlement with the government. It was because his FISA warrants were during the Crossfire Hurricane investigation. He alleged unlawful electronic surveillance. He alleged also claims under the Patriot Act, improper use, disclosure of the FISA-derived information, which is exactly what they do in our cases, which is used to do organized stalking and harassment, reputational harm, death, kidnapping threats. Does that sound familiar? Lost business opportunities and emotional distress. Patriot Act claims against the United States were added later. Willful violation of the FISA provisions. So he still has the claims that are against the other people are still alive. Okay. He was subject to 4 FISA warrants, each lasting 90 days. And it was proven that they lacked sufficient probable cause and were invalid, that the FISA warrants were bogus, just like yours and mine. So the claims against other individual defendants like James Comey, Andrew McCabe, Peter Strzok, Lisa Page, Kevin Kleinsmith, and others were not settled. Only the one against the United States government, which is cool because then the other ones, they have to probably defend themselves. I don't think that the government is granting them defense in those cases. Now comes the really good thing. Michael, you're gonna have more than $1 million. I am promising you that, okay? Because I'm gonna talk to you later about just right now about another standard that is being set. The important thing is that it's a threshold, it's a minimum that are being set in different areas, okay? But now comes, like Jill likes to say, a doozy. The Cato Institute is doing the heavy lifting for us. On March 18th, 2026, the DC District Judge James Boasberg ordered the Justice Department to turn over to the Cato Institute FISA Section 702 non-compliance records pursuant to a long-running Cato Freedom of Information Act lawsuit. By the way, the FBI maintains a list of problematic FOIA filers, and Cato Institute is in there. I'm sure that Targeted Justice and the Lighthouse and Ana Toledo are there too, but the FBI had until April 10th to process 28 pages of records. And you know how they are. They delayed. They didn't send them on time. Then they send them Federal Express. It turns out, here is the doozy, that the Cato Institute has discovered that there is a Sentinel Gold division of files within the FBI where, aside from the prohibited access files, our documents are hidden. There is the sworn statement. You see the guy that is answering our statements. I think his name is Arlie. I have it here, somewhere here. Well, get a load of this. I am going to give you a copy of it because many of you might be interested in reading it. It's very interesting. Every single one of you that is active in your Privacy Act request should read that. That Sentinel Gold is where any top secret special compartmented information pertinent to a case is kept. Let me show you how it compares to the central record system, where these criminals tell us, oh, I looked in the central record systems and we didn't find anything. This is Napier. This is his sworn statement. Let me show you this. Okay, I'm going to put it in the big thing so you can see these numbers here. Okay, so basically, it is the Sentinel Gold is highly classified, top secret, sensitive, compartmented information repository that forms a segregated, higher security portion of the FBI primary's electronic case management system, known as Sentinel. It exists specifically to store and manage the most sensitive investigative materials that cannot be housed in the regular Sentinel database. Translation: they're illegal shenanigans. That's where the prohibited access files are. Core differences from the regular Sentinel system. It's just the FBI main case tracking. Now, Sentinel Gold is an upgrade, and it's, as I said, a top secret repository. However, when you the information that is stored in Sentinel Gold is that which is classified as top secret level. Okay. Now, here is the thing. When you look at this chart that I am showing you here, Mr. Arnie here has proven that the FBI lies to us when they answer our Privacy Act request. He signs documents lying because he said to Cato that they look everywhere in the Sentinel, and to us they only say that they look in the central record system that only comprises 35% of the FBI records. So they don't look in the other 65. And there's a reason for that. Because he is covering up the FBI crimes. And that is criminal activity that looks to me like criminal activity, because I'm going to tell you why. If you write a letter saying, I only looked in the central record system, when you already did a sworn statement saying that that is not the FBI policy, you're covering up for somebody. Listen, there is central record system. It's started in 1921 era, indexing and filing system, 35%. Sentinel main comprises 50% of the files. There you have 85%. Is the primary modern electronic case management system. UNET is unclassified sensitive administrative, 8%. And then Sentinel Gold is 5%, highly segregated, top secret. There are other systems that comprise 2%, like emails, specialized warehouses, and file office system. Now, even though the Privacy Act does not have criminal penalties for the officials that do not give you the information that they're supposed to give you under the privacy or give you access to, I looked up the statutes, the criminal statutes involved in I looked up the statutes that are involved in hiding evidence that you're supposed to and you're entitled to see. Listen up, criminals, because I know you're watching. And this you should know, because by denying us our right to inspect our records at the agency, you may be violating one or many of these statutes. 18 U.S. Code Section 4, misprision of felony. Whoever having knowledge of the actual commission of a felony cognizable by a court of the United States conceals and does not as soon as possible make known the same to some judge or other person in civil or military authority under the United States shall be fined under this title and imprisoned not more than 3 years or both. This is very relevant because they know about the crimes against humanity that are being perpetrated against the victims of government weaponization. There's also 18 U.S. Code 1001, false statement or concealment in matters within federal jurisdiction. Whoever, in any matter within the jurisdiction of the executive, legislative, or judicial branch of the government of the United States, knowingly and willfully falsifies, conceals, or covers up by any trick, scheme, or device a material fact shall be fined or imprisoned not more than 5 years. Guess what? What is concealing or covering up if not saying, oh, I only looked in the central record system? These FOIA officials have got to be held liable for this. Now, there are many others. There's also a conspiracy, 18 U.S. Code 371, and a concealment, removal, or mutilation of records, which is 18 U.S. Code Section 2071. And this one is, I think, also can be imprisoned not more than 3 years per offense. Don't think that they can put, all those Privacy Act requests that Arnie has answered saying, oh, I only look in the central record system. Each one is one violation. Now, the suggested text in the Privacy Acts and Appeals in the TJ website are going to be updated to include, number one, if you give the FISA warrants to Carter Page, you have to give them to me. Number two, you have to look in Sentinel Gold and all of the other ones that have been listed by the Cato Institute. So kudos and thank you to the Cato Institute for doing the heavy lifting. The repercussions for us are huge. They can no longer continue their stupid argument that I looked in the central record system. It's just, now there's another standard that is being set, which is very interesting. And it is that Joe Biggs, one of the leaders of the J6 of the Proud Boys, who was in prison for 4 years, is getting a settlement. Let me play it for you. He's getting a settlement of $10,000 per day that he was imprisoned. This is great for setting standards of liability by the criminal activity of the FBI and government criminals against us. Let me play this for you because I think it still has not been put into a document. It's still not formally in the document.
But I'm getting that money guaranteed. Then now that it's been vacated and they've dismissed it based on the fact that they said that there was so much negligence and so much corruption in the prosecution of us, it's $10,000 a day for illegal detainment. So $10,000 a day times 4 years.
That's very good. That's like some $4 million or something. Plus, he's going to get other, like his benefits and his Purple Heart reinstated. It was taken away from him and all of that. So what I'm saying is that these precedents are setting a standard for when our day comes to petition for redress. And in this context, this is why it's so important that you continue doing your Privacy Act request and don't stay behind, because many of us have done it and we're not staying behind. We're going to knock on the door of the courts and we're going to demand that the FBI didn't look in the entire agency files and they are intentionally hiding information because it's damning, because it proves government weaponization and because it proves the obliteration of the lives of so many. We're going to see the communications with the lawyers, the judges, the colleagues, the police, the sheriffs, everybody that made sure to make your life a living hell. They're all stored in those files they don't want to look in. Anyway, so now on another subject, there's a big win, and this we have to give the kudos to the grassroots organizing and children's health defense. They were fighting. I went to one of these hearings where they were ramming through all both sides of the aisle saying, oh, this is so great. Yes, we're going to take away the capacity of states and cities to fight the building of cell towers. And so federal lawmakers delayed a committee vote on a bill that would have largely stripped local governments of the authority to reject the installation of unwanted cell towers near homes, schools, and parks in their communities. The bill would have stripped parents, cities, and school boards of any meaningful authority to decide where cell towers and wireless antennas are placed. So this is really good. Let me show you one, as I mentioned in my Mira post this week. The Lighthouse and I went distributing flyers. And let me just show you these. I think that all of you, I'm going to be uploading these to the Targeted Justice website, but you should definitely try to distribute them in your local, your state, your city councils, your state legislators, representatives, your senators, because these people need to understand that, the mass shootings, the mass mind control is real. There's two versions. I'm going to put the two versions, upload them. Remember, it's targetedjustice.com/activism. And in there, we have the flyers. So you're going to have two versions of this one, MK Ultra Never Ended and the Reltron. Just for your, what did you do today? What did you do today to end your targeting? Well, Bob Getman, he is doing a campaign to send letters. And I think that, including along those letters, these flyers, helps you convey the message in a succinct way. And it's relatable. These people, I did an entire 8 floors of the Longworth building, and these people, when they look at it, they're like, oh my God. So it's very effective, particularly when you tell them, do you see erratic behavior, for example, by the president? Well, this is why it's happening. I have no doubt that that's what's happening to him, because it's like they changed the person. Anyways, please consider doing that. Consider going to your local city council and to your local state senators, over there in Oregon, in Washington, where you are so attacked. Everybody's attacked, Ohio, everywhere. But just try to get it done, because I think it's really useful in fighting back. We need to continue fighting back. Anyways, on another matter, the indictment, there's just so much that happened. There was such a deluge happening. The indictment against the Southern Poverty Law Center is really important. And I think I really have the idea that it's going to be the gift, like the Epstein files that have been halted, and we have to continue pushing on the Epstein files, because I think the reason they are holding it back is not because Trump wants to protect his friends. No, is because the targeting program is all over the place there. So we need to continue insisting on that. But the Southern Poverty Law Center, these people are real creeps. The indictment, there's an indictment that lists that this is what they would do. They would scream racism, and then they would pay people from the Ku Klux Klan and the National Socialist Party of America, and these other, the people that they criticized, they would pay them to show up and protest. These, so they're being accused. They're being accused of taking the money for one thing and using it for another. They were responsible for supporting the Christopher Wray narrative that the single most urgent terrorist threat in the United States was white supremacy. And that's how they targeted a lot of people. Now that they have been indicted, I don't trust the DOJ will do much. We haven't seen much success. We know that the Letitia James case got dismissed. The Comey case got dismissed. We don't see much talent there. However, this was indicted in Montgomery, Alabama, and it alleges that they had covert informants, a covert informant program, just like DOJ, while soliciting donations by promising funds would be used to dismantle violent extremist groups, which include targeted individuals, of course. Instead, it allegedly funneled more than $3 million in donated money to individuals affiliated with or leaders of the very groups, which we are not part of course, it publicly opposed. Payments to extremists and fraud. Anyways, they're also accused of money laundering and payment to extremists and fraud on donors and bank fraud. And it's pretty bad. But I think that what's going to be interesting is the discovery and the relationship between Christopher Wray and the FBI and them to frame people. Because, do not forget, let me show you that these were the same people that placed these two people here. I'm going to have to learn. I promise that by the next, these two people were placed as terrorists by them, were listed by them, Dr. Ben Carson and Charlie Kirk. Think about that. They were placed on the hate watch list. And of course, that's how they made a lot of people hate Charlie. These people's hands, they are soaked in blood. Vilifying somebody who is just such an amazing person and an amazing Christian. Oh my God. Okay, espérate, undo. I did something wrong here. Sorry. Okay, so anyways, they are in a lot of trouble. And it's very sad when nonprofit organizations lose their north, because I am sure that at some point they had some good reason to exist. Anyway, there was a lot more I wanted to cover, but I covered, like the murder of the scientist that it continues to happen, the age verification statute that it's appears to be age verification, but it's really more a spying statute on everybody. HHS is going to be harvesting data. But here's the thing. I don't want to look at those because I want to look at the good news. I want to look at the good news of the exposure of the program, which is happening. The death, the murder of these scientists, particularly the last woman. Actually, she was murdered in 2022, even though it's supposedly a suicide, but I'm sure it was a murder. And then the Wilcox, the man that was murdered yesterday, also supposedly as a suicide. I think this is going to be investigated, and it's going to bring a lot of attention to the program. You can see her pictures. She had microwave burns in her hands, and that I posted that, and it's up to like 23,000 views. Anyways, so we should not get distracted. If you have not sent your Privacy Act request, this is a time. Look at the Targeted Justice website. We have a form there. We have appeal forms. Jill continues to help people on a professional basis. You can contact her, JillTJ at proton.me. And we have them cornered. They have nowhere to run because the moment we file a lawsuit saying, look at the dishonesty here. This is only central record system only comprises 35% of the records at the FBI, and this is what these criminals are saying. We're the only place they're looking in. And even when you tell them, I want you to look in the full Sentinel, they come back and say, no, I looked at the central record system. And the answer is, do you not know how to read? Really? Because the Privacy Act does not give you the authority to decide where you look for the records. Anyways, I want to thank Jim that has been reminding everybody on X for the 5-minute intention that we're insisting of the 5-minute at noon prayer meditation. The targeting program is over. I am now free. And just for 5 minutes, that it's proven to work. We visited 5 buildings last week, giving away flyers. And one of the nights that I was really punched and abused by these criminals, with due. But I will do it over, and I'm going to continue doing it next week, and I will do it all over again. And if they think that making me ugly and disfiguring me is going to stop me, they're wrong, because I am not going to stop. I'm way past that stage. Anyways, thank you for all of you supporting me in this mission for freedom. And I wanted to share with you this video that I saw today that I think might be relevant. I think it's not an accident that it popped into my feed, and I just wanted to share it with you. And it is right here.
How heavy is this glass of water? Melissa, would you care to answer?
8 ounces.
12 ounces.
16 ounces.
The absolute weight of the glass doesn't matter. It depends on how long I hold on to it. If I hold it for a minute, nothing happens. If I hold it for an hour, my arm will begin to ache. If I hold it all day long, my arm will feel numb and paralyzed. Well, the weight of the glass hasn't changed, but the longer I hold on to it, the heavier it becomes. The stresses and the worries of life are like this glass of water. If you think about them for a little while, there's no problem. Think about it for a little bit longer, it begins to hurt. You think about them all day long, and you'll feel paralyzed, incapable of doing anything. Always remember, put the glass down.
Yeah, I thought that was awesome. Anyways, thank you everybody for your amazing support. But for you, I wouldn't be here fighting for everybody's freedom. I am humbled and I'm grateful to all of you that continue to support me. And I hope to see you next week with the avalanche of information. It's not stopping. It's good every day. We have to start seeing the good. Even in the bad, there's good. Even with, like increasing the targeting of people, it's good. Now you see that senators and representatives that never even cared about our constitutional rights, about the Fourth Amendment, they are now being the warriors for the Fourth Amendment. And that is wonderful because their end is near. So, yeah, big hug to everybody. Big hug to everybody. And I will be seeing you. I'm going to see how I can manage this situation here, which is a little hard for me. But I will be seeing you all next week.